I hit the wrong button. Yay. And here we go. Digital Adele back with another Hoops Profile Beyond the Backboard podcast for you with my co host, Matt Hanifan. How are you doing today, Matt?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm getting through, trying to get better day by day. And want to apologize to our audience and our fans. This is the biggest time of year. And if I missed this time of year, something has to be going on. So just know that I'm on the mend. I'm getting better, but we never want to miss any podcast. And we have this privilege by playback to broadcast these games to people that are joining our playback room from the NCAA tournament. So it is very disappointing that I wasn't able to do a lot more of that, but we're certainly going to try. So I do want to apologize to our fan base, but um,
Your mic cut out.
is can you not hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. How long did it cut out for?
It's just a few seconds.
Okay. So cool. Nothing major missed. I just want to get into the nitty gritty of what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to try to keep this as brief and concise as possible, but yet entertaining as possible. Or maximum efficiency is what we're going for. So the news, I don't want to bury the lead. The lead is this channel, Matt Hanifan and I, before anybody, has been talking about KeyShawn Hall for the 2025 draft. And couldn't understand why he wasn't getting enough buzz watching his tape. Like, you didn't hear of him in any draft talk podcast. You didn't see him on any draft guides, big boards, anything like that. Now, before we go further, we just want to let you know KeyShawn Hall, per Twitter, his Twitter account, declared for the NBA draft. And he's leaving the University of Central Florida, the Knights. And that's a big deal because he is 6'7". He says he's down to 220 pounds. The last time that I spoke, and when I say I spoke to him, he commented on our video breakdown that I did of KeyShawn Hall, and he corrected my 250, which he was listed at previously. And so he's down to 220 according to KeyShawn Hall. And it's a big deal because at that size, 6'7", 220, to be able to go inside, outside, operate the P&R, handle, rebound, block shots, defend on the perimeter, that's translatable skills to the NBA that I think any NBA team is going to covet. And if you just look at his stats, even in his game against Kansas, he had 25 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, shot 44% from 3, 50% from the field, 47% from the field. In that overtime loss to Kansas, which was a really good team. So he had his UCF Knights. They were right there. They lost 94-98. I'm just super excited for the kid. I can't wait to see the things that he's going to do. And I'm super excited for this channel because, that's a notch in our belt, man. Do you have any thoughts on the KeyShawn Hall declaration of going to the NBA?
That's assuming that he actually follows through with it. Because again, I say this regardless of
Right.
regardless of anything, whether they enter the transfer portal or declare, or whether they declare it this time anyway. They have a month to enter, just to give people an idea. At least I believe for just college players. I know international rules are a little different. But for college players, they have until I think it was April 27th until
I
they're
believe you're
able to
right about
declare.
that. Right.
Yeah, and then they have until like the end of May, like May 29th or something like that, and if they want to, retract their name. And plenty of players will declare, come back, whatever the case is. But good for him. Like regardless, like good for him. For making that decision. I would imagine he sticks in the draft, but again, he also may be someone who, um, at least this is just a projection. This isn't like I don't have any like inside info or anything, but he'd be someone who I would like if he could play in the combine, I would absolutely do that just to kind of put his name on the radar a little bit more.
Right.
Because it still really isn't much on the radar. Like he led the Big 12 in scoring and he led them in free throws and he was still a very productive rebounder, solid passer, solid defender, good length. And he's still like you still look at the majority of big boards and he's still not there. That's not to say that, you know, he can't climb up based off pre-draft interviews, based off workouts, based off whatever the case is, but he's just not there currently. And so at least for his sake, I'm hoping that he's able to receive some good intel to where he's able to confidently put his name in the draft, whether he's uh, a late second round pick, gets a two-way deal, second round exception, or even like it'd be awesome if was a first round pick and just completely blew everyone out of the water. I mean, it's not like we haven't seen that before, maybe not from someone who's completely off the radar, but we've seen players fly up boards like Jalen Williams was one of them. I
Right.
know it's obviously a little bit different, but uh, yeah, good for him for making that decision. Again, just based on his tweet, I know there was one or two other of like the college basketball like insiders to tweet it out, and
Right.
he basically confirmed it. I wonder if like that's actually on the table, like off the table of him going back to school. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know.
The way he
But
wrote the message, it sounds like he's gone, right? Like
it
so.
does sound like he's gone, but
Right.
I guess you just never know with that stuff. It just
No,
depends.
for sure. You never know what could happen. You don't know what intel, like you said, he could receive. But when someone says, first off, I want to thank Jehovah God and Jesus Christ for always being by my side, through highs and lows and never giving up on me. With that being said, I'm excited for the opportunity to see my dreams become reality. I'm declaring for the 2025 NBA draft. Doesn't sound like somebody who's dipping their toe to test the
Yeah,
waters.
yeah. But again, like you just don't know with that stuff. But I think you're right. That's why I think you're right.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things too, I think in the private workouts, because everybody's looking for these 6'7" functional length, ball handling, shooting type guys, I think he is going to fly up draft boards. I could see
Guys who
him
can dribble,
sneaking
pass,
in.
shoot.
I could see him sneaking into the first round. I could
Yeah.
definitely see that. Um,
I don't. I wouldn't put first. I mean, I just threw it out there because it'd be super sick for us. I know that's more of a selfish perspective than anything, but like, I don't necessarily see him getting a first round. But I mean, again, I could certainly see him getting drafted, no
it
question.
only takes one Matt Hanifan. It only takes one to have the
Right, but
googly
there are
eyes.
also 1,000 other names as well that it
Yeah,
only
but so,
takes one for is two.
and here's the thing with that, Matt. Based on what I've seen from his tape, head to head in any workout that he does, he's going to blow some of these late first round prospects away. Like I would rather have KeyShawn Hall. Like when we go through our top 100 list, what we can do is and through this top 100 list from ESPN, um we
Mhm.
can say, would you rather have this player or KeyShawn Hall? We can do that. We can play that game.
There's also the thing that like I've we've talked about on here a little bit before, how NIL impacts all of this. Like
Right.
there are going to be so many prospects if just outside the top, maybe like 20, top 25 that are like, you know what? There's no guarantee that I'm going to get a contract
Right.
and I'm just going to go back to school because I'm getting, however, like I'm getting, 500K or however much through the NIL based on the current school on the schools that they go to. Um, and so I think you're going to see a lot of players like there's going to be some unexpected names that like we've been talking about. I don't know who. I'm not going to try to project that, but there's certainly going to be names that, take their name out and they go back to school for another year. It's just like, oh, okay, like I understand it from like an NIL perspective. Like you want to continue to raise your stock and then you'll try again next year. And that's just for players who still have eligibility. There's certain players who don't have eligibility that will have to be putting their name in anyway. But again, it bumps those guys up. It also would bump guys like KeyShawn Hall, assuming he sticks his name into the draft, among plenty of
Right.
others. Up the board a little bit. If that indeed were to be true, and so like I'm just very interested to see like it's going to be very interesting next several weeks just to see like okay, who declares, who performs well at the combine testing or in games,
Right.
which I know there's a more limited sample of that, and then who ultimately retracts their name, and it'll be very interesting to see like what happens with that, because I'm sure there's going to be players that were like, wait, what? They went back to school?
Right.
But then you think about it a little bit more, and it's just like, okay, that actually makes sense in this,
You mean like Ryan
NIL
Kalkbrenner?
college
Oh no,
basketball era.
he has no more eligibility.
Huh?
I said like Ryan Kalkbrenner. Oh wait, he has no more eligibility.
Are we sure? No. Like, yeah, Hunter Dickinson. He's going to go back for a 12th year of college.
That's right.
No.
Triple masters.
Yeah, like especially with like the JUCO rules and stuff. Like Blendenborg has actually another year, even though he's been in college for a while. And it's just like this is an
Unbelievable.
interesting twist that the NCAA is now allowing. That I don't know all of these other players that play JUCO. I'm sure there's plenty of them. Um, but that also just adds an interesting wrinkle into this as well. But
Right.
who knows, man? Who knows? There could be plenty of guys that either stay or go and do do what's best for them.
Yep. No, you're right. Anything is possible with that. But before we get too far along in the show, I wanted to thank Matt Hanifan for being my co-host. Don't forget to follow him on all social media. You can follow me, Digital Adele, on Twitter, Instagram, 5 Reasons Sports Discord, playback.tv/shoots profile, playback.tv/5RSN. Let's move into our next segment, which is going to be discussing the ESPN Top 100 picks for the 2025 NBA Draft. As we hit on some of the players that were in the tournament, we'll kind of talk a little bit about how they did in the tournament. Matt Hanifan is kind enough to put that on the screen for us. If you want to follow along, you certainly can. So their top 100 rankings big board, the very top is kind of chalky. Like there isn't a lot we didn't expect. Cooper Flag, there's not much else we can say about Cooper Flag. We've talked about him. Best player in the draft. He's had a great tournament to start. Um, no question. Dylan Harper, no question, second round pick. The size at the position, the skills involved, obvious number 2 pick. Ace Bailey, I have some concerns. I've had him 2 or 3 all season, and I just don't know if he's better at what he does than what Trey Johnson is at what he does. What are your thoughts on Ace Bailey at number 3?
I think I have him 4 on my board right now. So it's not much different. Again, it just sucks because I know there's only so many teams that can be in the tournament, and that's I'm not trying to cry for expansion of the tournament. I don't want that, but it just sucks that we can't see Ace and Dylan play for our own sake.
Their team wasn't very good, so
Correct. Like I just want to watch those two specifically play more basketball.
right.
Unfortunately, we won't be able to have that luxury. But
One of
yeah,
my biggest detractors from Ace Bailey was late in games, especially the Michigan game, which was a big game for them against good competition. He could not shake um, the defense, could not convert. It got in his head and he stopped shooting. And that's what he does. So I was disappointed at his mental fortitude at the down the stretch of that game. VJ Edgecombe, number 4. I keep waffling back and forth on VJ. Best athlete in the draft, showed steady growth and improvement all season. But the tournament was very disappointing. His demeanor was very disappointing. Um, you know, so I have a hard time putting VJ at 4 above Trey Johnson. I would flip flop the two. Trey Johnson, certified bucket, leader, cares, did everything for that Texas team. What are your thoughts?
I wasn't. I don't know the numbers specifically for VJ, but I wasn't unimpressed with what I saw.
When I
Hold
say
on,
unimpressed, here's what I'm
hold
looking
on.
for.
I'm pulling up the numbers now.
But here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody to lead your team and to fight tooth and nail not to lose the game. That's what I'm looking for. and I didn't see those things.
I mean, didn't he kind of do that to an extent before it got away from them against Duke? Like, he was the
Little,
reason why they were in that game for a little while.
little bit. It just, I have concerns. Um, I'm not, I'm not concrete one way or the other yet, but it still bothers me. His measurables are going to be interesting as well. What do
Do we
you
wanna
think?
jump into the stock? Or is there any other guys you wanna touch on?
No, go ahead. What did you want to jump into?
No, I was just gonna say, like, the stock risers and fall I mean, because that's, like, a decent segue, but, like,
Let's do it. Yeah, risers
is
and
there any other
fallers.
guys you
Let's
wanna
do it.
touch on?
Nah, we can do that because this is a perfect spot to do risers and fallers. As how could wait? How can Flag have stock up when he's been at the top?
Let me tell the people, I did my own exercise for stock up and stock down, um, before I hopped on here, just, a little bit of a mental exercise to see if there was anyone that, like, really improved their draft stock, and to me, I just kinda I find it kinda hard to believe. I mean, Cooper was so good, but, like, he's raising his stock from 1-1 to 1-1, like, I
Right.
don't.
So goofy.
Yeah. I also didn't have a list of a whole lot of players. I'm still catching up on games that I missed because I was at some of them.
Yeah.
Um, so I only have 7 players. I considered 9 total.
Okay.
I know, Javoni has more. Yeah, this was Javoni. He has more. Um, so yeah, I mean, like, I didn't put Coop on this list even though I thought he was really good because it was like
Right.
and for my own sake, I was trying to find, like, a legitimate increase in potential stock in
No,
my own head
it makes sense.
versus and then, the inverse with that.
Makes all the sense in the world. Let's start with Jeremiah Fears. Stock up. Completely agree. Um, he's been really impressive to me. He got better as the year went on. Early, we talked about his inability to finish at the rim and through contact. By the end of the season, he looked stronger than ever, more assertive than ever, finishing awesome at the rim. He's got the quickness to get to anywhere he wants on the floor. He can run the break. He can pass the ball. He's getting better in the P&Rs. His jump shot needs a lot of work, but something that is going to serve him very well in the NBA. He creates a ton of space, tons of space on his step backs, and separation. So if you can get an open look, he'll be able to have time, set his feet, work, focus on his mechanics. He'll get better. And he's a great free throw shooter and draws tons of fouls. So I'm really high on Jeremiah Fears, really high. What about you?
I still wanna see him because the finishing numbers still aren't good for me to be sufficed by it,
Okay.
but I think he got better. That's part where it's like, again, I think I may have said this on a previous pod. I know I've said it in our Discord. For guys who reclassify, because he reclassified,
Right.
especially for guys who are, skinnier than most, even though he does have good size at 6'4", like, it takes a little bit. And I know his early season production against some of these, the lower level teams that he faced kind of helped buoy his numbers and buoy his stock a little bit. And then, like, for a while in Big 12 play, it was just a little bit like,
Right.
or not Big 12, SEC play. It was inconsistent. See, with all this realignment stuff, I thought Oklahoma was in the Big 12 for a second.
It's
Um,
easy to forget or misremember.
correct. Um, so I was a little bit like for a while when I watched him, I was like, obviously there's tools there, like how shifty he is, how quick he is. Like, those are tantalizing skills. His passing was solid. Like, it wasn't great, it was solid. But, like, you could see there was some chops there. Obviously, the outside shooting was a little bit of a concern. Again, I think that's more of like I trust that he'll get there. I don't know when.
Right.
Um, but then like him being able to get to the rim and like him mostly him finishing around the rim, I had concerns about. His defense, I have concerns about. I think a lot of that it's not due to a lack of effort, but like at the next level, he's going to be put in every action. Like he'll be the guy when he's on the floor that he's going to be hunted relentlessly because he's so skinny, and I just don't think he's skilled enough on that end yet. Like
Right.
there are certain reps again, like in point of attack, where I'm like, oh, okay, like again, you can see again, this isn't for a lack of effort. But when he's put in action, like he's just small, and so it's like
He is.
small from like a weight perspective. So I think he'll get out muscled a little bit easier, and so like that's where it's like I have questions.
Right.
But I do think there is plenty of like raw potential there that is worth taking a flyer on if you're, in the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 range.
Yeah. I
Um,
agree.
but there are some definite questions. There's some raw skill sets that I'm like, I want to see this be developed. Like he'd be if a team like needed a lead initiator in it, like they
I know a
with
team.
it, I wasn't gonna go there, but sure. But it's just more so one of those things where it's just like I don't think he'll be. I have questions about his ability to impact a game day one. It's got like I think he's more of a project than anything.
I get those concerns, but the fact that he's as quick as he is and his handle is as good as it is, I think
Yeah.
he's gonna be able to facilitate from day one. Like, even though he doesn't have elite court vision, just the ability to collapse the defense, those NBA coaches are gonna be like, once the defense collapse, kick it out. Drive and spray. Work those little PNRs and throw it up to somebody like Kaman Malawach.
No, you're pairing him with Malawach. It says San Antonio. Is he going to San Antonio?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know they
Him,
have 2
Malawach,
top
and
picks. I
Wimby.
don't know if any other team does, but
Him, Malawach, and Wimby. That's right.
yeah, Malawach wouldn't be. That'd be
That would be unbelievable. Fears, Malawach, Wemby, Castle.
Fox.
Jesus, Fox. Oh my god.
Just put fears behind Fox. Let him learn a little bit.
Let him learn, man. Yeah, that would be outstanding.
One
Outstanding.
quick guard to another.
I like it. I like it a lot. But yeah, come on, Malawach. Segueing to him, I think his stock's up because one thing that I think you're going to see even more in the NBA is his ability to shoot the three ball. I think that is something that because Duke has even said, I was listening to one of the broadcasts, and they said they don't allow him to shoot threes, but he can do it very well. And so during the tournament, they've opened that up and they've allowed him to shoot threes a little bit. I think he's going to be dangerous in the NBA. That length, that wingspan, his ability to play defense, block shots, be a vertical spacer, I like it a lot. What about you?
I I think his free throw, like his form is okay. He's shot threes throughout the year where I'm just like, dude, that's not even close. And so that's where it's just like I think that's more of Duke PR pumping him a little bit instead of it like the actual reality.
Right.
But I do think that will come along maybe at some point. I don't know if he's going to be asked to do that. I guess it just depends on the system that he goes to.
I'm
Like there
not
might
saying
just
he's
be
going to be a high volume guy, but I think there's an ability to do it
I
more than there
sure,
was for last year's crop.
sure, that's fair. Um, I wonder like depending on the team that he goes to if they'll allow him to do that within his first couple of seasons. Maybe so. Maybe he really works on it and develops it. I'm not going to take the combine too seriously when it comes to his shooting, one way or the other.
Right.
Um, but everything else though is like his hands. I love his rim protection. Wait till he gets stronger,
Oh
and like
yeah.
that might hurt his quickness a little bit and his agility for someone who is 7'2", because I do think he moves well for someone who is that size.
Right.
But I just imagine like once he like as he continues to fill out and get stronger,
Right.
I think that will help him just kind of absorb more physicality with some of these other like big men at the next level because he's strong, but he's not like he obviously not an
He's
NBA ready
super
body.
young, so he doesn't
Correct.
have his grown man strength yet.
Correct. Like as he continues to fill out, that's something where I'll be interested to see how he continues to develop. And again, he's just a mammoth. Like he's so big. He
I
takes up so much space on the floor to where it's just like I'm very comfortable turning in the card for him come draft night.
absolutely. Let's talk about Derek Queen. How much stock do you put into that game-winning shot?
It was a very good shot. Um I'm not someone like I full disclosure for the people I was at those games this weekend. He was fine. Like it wasn't something where I was like a complete stock up or stock down. Like he was good
Right.
against Colorado State, even though the rebounding numbers may not have been there. Like there was some he had a couple of threes, one in the corner, one above the break against Colorado State. Um he hasn't really shot the three ball much this year. Like he did it again. Like that was another one. He did it against Michigan in the tournament, in the Big Ten tournament.
Right.
Something that I was impressed though, like I will say, I didn't put him on my list. I thought about it for the stock up portion of it. Something that I did like though was there were a couple, probably you know 3 or 4 instances over the weekend, maybe even more than that, where like he was actually valuable. Not valuable is the wrong word. Like there was actual production and effort on the weak side rim protection,
Oh,
like where he was
shocking.
blocking shots, and I was just like, okay, I'm filing that away. Like I saw flashes of it. I didn't see much of that during the season. Again, like you want those to be more consistent, but like he was like there was some legitimate stuff like there for again, you know, a few instances here and there where I was like, okay, like there were so many times during the season where I would watch him again. I didn't watch every Maryland game, obviously, but
Right.
there were times where I would watch him during the season where it was just like he wouldn't try or there would be little effort contesting at the rim, and that's
All
where it was just
year.
like,
That was
"That
like
can't
that
happen."
all year, man. You're right.
I was like,
All
"I
year.
that can't happen. That just
Right.
can't happen." And so, like, there were a few instances where, like, maybe he may have not been, like, the primary defender, but, like, he would help. Like, there was, like, legitimate, like, help defense, him, blocking some shots where it was just like, "Okay, like, that's a positive development. That's
Right.
something," or at least in this kind of context, like, biggest
Let me
games of the
ask you
season.
let me
Like,
ask you this then. Based on what you've seen so far in the NCAA tournament, his ability to handle the ball, if he is legitimately 6'10", does that put him as a top 10 pick?
I wouldn't have him as a top 10 pick, no.
I wouldn't either. That's where I keep falling. Let's move on to Igor Denman.
He is someone who I did have on this list.
What did you have him rising or falling? Because you see mine.
In these tournament games specifically, I had him rising.
I have him still falling. He's played better in the tournament than he did during the majority of the regular season, but I still have so many concerns. Um,
Sure.
I feel
Yeah.
like he plays well, but he's never the best player on the floor or even close to it. Um, that BYU team, they have a lot of older players that are really playing well, and they really play well together. They play a good form of team ball. But Igor, man, his frailty, his lack of burst to be able to get by people, and his inconsistency with the jumper, it's just been a big it's been a big reason why I have him sliding down in the teens, uh, closer to 15 than than the top of the lottery. So like I have legitimate concerns about him.
I'm actually genuinely surprised you had him that high. I have him in like the 20s right now, I think. That's
Yeah,
why I
I have
think
him in the
I
teens.
That's why I have him as like like stock riser from these
Oh,
two
okay,
games
from the
specifically.
20s. I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
And so, I mean, again, I haven't updated my big board, but just based on my expectation, like I remember telling you when we did our bracket last week that I thought he was going to like really struggle with the ball pressure and whatnot from VCU.
Yep.
But just in general, like from the bits and pieces that I saw from him this weekend, like I was like, I'm genuinely impressed. Like, or at least I liked what I saw more than what I did during the regular season.
Right.
And so that's what, gave him that little bit of a jump.
Well, let me ask you this. So, what made him impressive to you? Was it the ability to handle the ball pressure, making more jumpers? Like what impressed you the most?
I think it was a combination of both.
Mhm.
And just his like all around. I know Saunders was probably their best player this weekend.
Right.
But just his all around like impact relative to what I expected from him
Yeah.
in these two games.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm torn on him as a facilitator because he has good vision. It's just the other things are going to hold him back. The
Yeah.
lack of foot speed, the lack of vertical athleticism, the inconsistency with the jump shot. It's just going to be
Yeah.
very difficult for him. Much I don't want to say similar to Josh Giddey, but that is kind of the same stuff Giddey struggles with. Giddey's actually faster and quicker than Denver, but
Yeah.
um, but that's just to give you an idea of some of the things that he may struggle with. Who's next on our list here?
I didn't
Ah,
watch much I mean, I did watch a little bit of Illinois, but I wasn't locked in on Will Riley, so
yeah,
I know
he
that for
struggled.
people who've watched us before, that's not much of a surprise, me saying that, but
He struggled, but you know who we didn't discuss? Casper Siakachonis. He's
he was
fallen.
someone who I had on my list, but on the opposite spectrum.
Yeah, he's a faller guy. He's fallen. So
Yeah.
I'm really surprised by that. But let's talk about Will Riley. Riley, I think the thing with him is they've given him more usage. Like they need with Casp's play falling off during the end of the season, they gave more usage to Will Riley. And I think that's why you saw his numbers pick up. But he's still the same guy where he struggles really with the ball pressure. He's a good ball handler, but he doesn't go anywhere most of the time. And he's really skinny. He's going to have to get a lot stronger. Uh, I'm not super impressed with Will Riley. I don't know if I could have him on the risers, but I guess relative to how he played in the beginning of the season, it's definitely better than what he showed in the tournament.
Agreed.
The tournament's better than the regular season. Now I'm going to let you take this next guy and just go. Neek
I
Clifford.
actually thought about putting Neek on my list. I didn't in terms of stock up and down because he's been
Shocking.
someone who his stock is just his stock is continuously raised. I think just throughout the season, like his last,
Right.
18, 19, 20 games, it's just like risen and risen and risen. And so like for me, it would from what I saw this weekend from him, I know he struggled with his efficiency a little bit against Memphis. He was better against Maryland.
Right.
Um, it was just on plan. Like I have him as like a top 25 guy at this point,
Yeah, I could see
or
that.
top 30. And so
I could
like
see that.
for me, it wasn't like his performances this weekend. Like sure, he's raised his stock, throughout the entirety of this, like throughout from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. But he didn't raise his stock in my mind from the tournament. Like again, I just made my list based off of like tournament alone, just to see like just again brain exercise of like who I thought was better versus worse from last Tuesday when the first four started to now, and he wasn't someone who made it because it was like everything that I saw from him was like relatively on par from what I saw throughout the duration of the regular season. But Nick has been so awesome. Just like him offensively, his ability to, I probably don't want him to be a primary creator at the next level just because his handle's not. super great, but
Right.
like he's someone who I think has the capability of creating his own shot. He plays in an offense to where he has to move off the ball, and I think he does a very good job of moving into open space off the ball. Um,
He's
he's
really
someone who,
fast for 6'6" in a
yeah,
straight
he's like
line.
he's got a good first step, and he's someone who like if you're talking about someone who can take advantage of like long closeouts and be
Yeah.
an advantage creator in that way, like I think he's perfect for that at the next level off ball. In addition to defensively, like I know I've said it before, I think he's like people don't really talk about his defense, or at least people that maybe I'm just wrong, but he's
Yeah.
consistently like he didn't do as much this over this most recent last two games. He did it a little bit, but not as often as he was during the regular season. But he was consistently defending the team's best player or the team's best wing, ball handler, whatever the case is, and like he was holding his own. That's fine to have concerns about him just because he's not like he's gotten stronger, but he's still not like
Right.
super duper duper strong. And so like if people have concerns about that at the next level, that's fine. But like
I
he's
also
got
didn't love that elbow that he threw in the tournament. He should have got thrown out for it, but
yeah, well, that wasn't great. Um not to not to pour rain on a great weekend. But like there is some like stuff there just in terms of like I think he can be a legitimate multi-positional like he could probably defend at least three positions at the next level, I think.
yeah,
Um
no, he's a good two-way player. I like him a lot. Let me ask you this question then. Would you take him or KeyShawn Hall?
Neek.
I would take Hall. Interesting. I understand why you would take Neek, but I would take KeyShawn Hall.
It's not a big gap, but I would take Neek.
Yaxel Lindenborg is our next guy. Do you think he's done enough to rise to the end of the first round?
I mean, again, because he didn't play in the tournament. I think they're maybe. Dude, he's so productive.
He is
He does
very good.
everything for them, even though he's still undersized and still has some athletic concerns, but like he does so much for them. Like
But to me, it feels like he's the old guy playing with kids and he just dominates everybody physically. Like he just moves everybody. And he's very skilled and very smart. I like him a lot. In the second round. I don't think I could put him in the first round.
I don't know if
Keyshawn
he'd be a first round guy either in my head.
so Keyshawn Hall or Yaxel Lindenberg.
Probably Keyshawn. It depends on what my team needs, but probably Keyshawn.
I got you. I think Keyshawn Hall can do what Yaxel Lindenberg does, but better on the outside. He's not as strong
Yeah.
as Yaxel on the inside, but like I said, I think he's so versatile. He's a matchup nightmare. I'm taking Keyshawn Hall all day long. Um, Bennett Sturts from Drake. I didn't watch any Drake games. That's shame on me. I didn't watch on any Drake games during the regular season, but man, was he fantastic in the tournament. Super smart, plays really well, just knows how to play the game. Great feel for the game. What were your thoughts on
I
Bennett
mean,
Sturts?
I'm surprised Javoni actually included him on this list, but he's not going to be coming out this year. He's already
No chance.
transferring.
No chance.
They already came out and said he's transferring to Iowa with Ben McCollum. So it's like he was awesome though, but like just for the people's sake, he'd be someone to watch out for next year.
2026.
Um, but he, very good as like at least in the context that he was in as like a lead creator, kind of like the engine of that offense. Um, he was just an awesome watch, just like over these last couple games for
I
people who
agree.
didn't
Is there
have
anybody else on
watch
this
him.
list?
Tyrese Proctor and John Tonje, and he had a lot more players. Jeez, I didn't realize it was
Wow.
this long. I apologize.
I don't know, but he had stock down on VJ Edgecombe. He took my stance.
Oh, I didn't want to spoil it, so I'll scroll back up to
That's all right. I saw it.
Proctor's been awesome, dude.
I've loved what I've seen from Proctor, and I think off of some team's bench, he's going to make a dynamic scorer in the NBA.
I didn't include him on my list. I should have. Like this is like I would have included him if I remembered him. I I I slept on him, as the kids would say nowadays. Um,
Oh my
but
god, dude, you
Proctor's
sounded
been
like you're
so good in the
700
tournament.
years old.
Huh?
You sounded older than me when you said.
I know I did. But no, Proctor's been outstanding. Just as like he's been on fire these in the tournament so far. Um,
He's been good all season though. He's really been
he
that same guy all season.
100%.
So I've really been high on him. His ability to shoot the ball has been super consistent. To do a little bit more than he did his first year, like handling the ball and defending. I'm impressed, really impressed. Stock up.
And even then, like I still think there's some potential for him as like a secondary creator or tertiary creator at the next
Yeah,
level.
a little bit, little bit.
To me, he's more of like a 3 and D guard who's 6'6", and like I think a team will take a chance on that.
Tanjay's not getting drafted, is he?
I mean, he's so old, but
That's what I'm saying.
probably not.
That's what I'm
I like
saying. You're
Tanjay a
still right.
lot, but
I mean, in the NBA, I mean, he's a great college player. I don't see him translating to the NBA like that, but I mean, maybe. But
super strong.
he's almost 24, dude.
Yeah.
Crazy. They're not.
E
Neither one of these guys is coming out.
I don't think Ejiofor gets drafted either, but
Yeah,
he could be someone who I think goes back for another year.
I don't see why he wouldn't. To be honest, I don't
I
want
know
to talk
Swain
about
is
Swain.
someone who is
Yeah.
it came out this morning that he's entering the transfer portal. So, I mean, you could obviously enter the transfer portal and still declare, but he was someone who put in his name in the portal.
He's not coming. There it is. Javoni agrees with me. You want to talk about it at all?
Well, we did touch on it a little bit.
And we can keep moving. It's fine.
Is stock neutral slash down? Uh,
I
it,
don't like that he hedged that bet by putting neutral. I don't like
I only to preface by saying I only had a couple of players on my stock down list. I had more stock up than stock down, so but Edgecombe was not one of those players on either end of the spectrum.
Yeah, I have concerns. I have legitimate concerns. I'll be right back. Talk to the people about Trey Johnson.
I'm surprised he included Trey Johnson in this list. Um, I didn't think he was. I mean, he wasn't great. I guess you can make an argument for him. Like he wasn't great in their game against Xavier. I don't know how much of that specifically impacts his draft stock, like at its entirety. I think what we saw from Trey in that game against Xavier was one of his worst games in the sense that like I didn't think the decision making was all that good just from like the shot selection and whatnot, but he still finished, 6 of 14 shooting, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 23 points, 7-11 from the free throw line. The free throw numbers were a little bit weird because like he was an 87% free throw shooter on the season, 88%
Yeah,
around that area. But
right.
like I remember just at the beginning of the game where it was just like, okay, I don't love some of the decision making. I still do have concerns about him, like his ability to get to the rim at the next level. Not that he can't, but like him generating paint touches consistently is something that I will have a little bit of a concern about, especially if he can't go left because he doesn't go left very much. Um, but other than that, like I wasn't super concerned with Trey, especially again, I'm isolating the Xavier game versus everything else. He does take a lot of tough shots. That's even polarizing for me sometimes, but like I thought he was, fairly efficient with some of those looks. Maybe not against Xavier by himself, but
Can I ask you a
just
question?
yeah.
How can he be stocked down when he's a potential top 5 pick?
I'm more so thinking about the Xavier game by itself.
I
In
get
terms of what Javoni's putting,
right.
considering he raised his stock into a top 5 pick,
Right.
not sure. I was just I was just trying to think about this from like over the last week.
Right. I
Like, and it's
think
like,
he
okay,
made the thing I think Javoni's discounting is how wore down as a freshman you get doing what he did all season. Facing
sure,
double
yeah.
teams and blitzes and leading the SEC in scoring. To me, watching him play, he looked wore down and he fought his way through it. So I give him extra credit for that. I disagree with Javoni on this wholeheartedly disagree with Javoni.
Fair.
You want to talk Kasper Jakachonis and his descent?
I have questions about Cass athletically and his ability and just the turnovers again.
Yeah. Turnovers
He
are
was awesome in that game against Xavier, and so like I don't want like he was on my stock down,
yeah.
but it's mostly from like I had him as like a top 3 or 4 guy
Me
or
too.
top maybe top 5 most of the season.
Yeah, me too.
And so that's where it's just like I understand it from that angle if like he's no longer a top 5 player on someone's board because of this weekend specifically. I'm still not worried about like the shot. Like I know the shooting has been bad. I think it'll get to a point where it'll be functional at the NBA level. I'm mostly referring to his long range shooting.
I
When I
think
say
he
that,
wore down also because they don't play that many games in Europe. And coming into the college season, it just looked to me like he got ground to a pulp with the amount of usage that he had early in the season.
yeah.
Um,
But it's still like the decision making though was like that was a problem the whole season sometimes with
oh, I
like the pass.
agree. I have two big concerns with Cass.
Yeah,
One is the turnovers. Two is his lack of vertical athleticism and burst.
yeah. The fact that he's as good of a rebounder as he is, yet
Well,
he's
that's because he's
still
built like Captain America. Like he's
but
super
he's
strong.
still at 6'6", like you don't expect a guy with athletic issues, for lack of a better term, to grab as many rebounds as he did
I
just over
agree.
the course of the season.
I agree. I think he's going to come out at the combine with a big wingspan and big hands. I think that's going to explain that a little bit. So when you can get
Perhaps.
position at that strength with long wingspan and big hands, I think you're going to grab rebounds. But that's just my thought on it. And I still like him as a prospect, but he's definitely stocked down for me.
Sure,
What
sure.
about
And
Jace Richardson? Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
do like the physicality that he provides on both ends. Like I know he's someone who does have a problem. Not Jace. We'll get to him in a second. Casp does have a problem, like sometimes creating separation,
Right.
and so like again, that's something that I have a little bit of a concern about. But like, it's not great or anything like that. Like I more so like the physicality that he does play with, and I think as he continues to get older and get stronger and get smarter, like
Right.
that's something that I think he'll develop over time.
Yeah, he's going to draw a ton of fouls in the NBA. Like that's going to be he's going to live at the free throw line early in his career. Um, depending on the ref, depending on the whistle he gets.
Yeah.
But Jace Richardson, talk to me about Jace's tournament experience, especially against your beloved New Mexico Donovan Dents.
I saw some of the game against New Mexico, not a lot. I didn't.
Shocked?
I get. I admittedly didn't watch a ton of Michigan State this weekend.
Mhm.
Um, but the 1 for 10 against New Mexico is not great.
Not
Not
great at all.
not great.
Mm. Yeah, in the biggest stage and the biggest game of the year to lay an egg like that, it's concerning, and it keeps bringing back the specter of is he really a legitimate 6'3"? That's the question I have. Do you think he's going to be a legitimate 6'3", or do you think he's closer to like 6'1", 6 foot?
Well, I think he'll measure in at 6'1" at the combine, but that means he's 6'3". So at least what from what they're measuring him as. So it's like I
Uh,
don't have much concern about that.
All
I mean,
right.
I do have concern about that, but like if he comes in at 6'1", give or take 2 inches with the shoes,
What if he comes in at 6 foot even?
a little bit more concern, I guess. But
What if he has a short wingspan?
that would be the one.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm most that the wingspan is usually the one I'm more worried about instead of like the height.
You and me both. You and me both, man. You and me
That
both.
would be one where it's just like, okay, you're 6'3", but like let's say you have a 6'3" wingspan or 6'4" wingspan. That's where it's just like a little bit more concerning.
Do you remember
A
what
little bit more
happened with
concerning.
Nikola Topic last season, where
Oh yeah.
all
They
all
were
year
saying
we heard about
had a
his
7-foot
wingspan?
wingspan. It came at like what, like 6'7"?
He had a negative wingspan.
Oh, it was negative wingspan. That's even
Yeah,
worse.
it's crazy. I was like, wait, what? But is there
See,
anybody else on this list, or is that it?
no, I think Liam, Asa, Fleming. I didn't. I mean, he didn't play in the tournament, so I didn't put him on my list. Powell.
I
There's
don't
a
want to
number
talk
of
about
guys.
any of those
We
names.
could touch on most of these guys, but Liam is
Yeah,
one. I didn't include Liam on my list because he's been somewhat like this was the opposite of Neat Clifford,
right.
where
He's been low all season.
yeah, he's just been trending lower and lower as like the season's gone on. And so like what happened in the tournament, again, I didn't watch much UConn.
Yeah.
So I can't speak to like how he played, but just if you just look at the numbers itself, it wasn't at all encouraging. But then
I watched the whole game.
if you watch some of the late season stuff, it wasn't his best work coming off that injury.
If you watch his early season stuff, it wasn't some of his best work.
I liked the stuff before he got injured. Like right before he got injured. But
Right,
early
right.
in the season, sure.
Early in the
That's fair
season,
concern.
not good. End of the season, not good. Tournament, not good.
I was
I'm not
about
a
to say we'll see more of him because UConn advanced. They did not advance.
They did not. I'm not a fan of Liam McNeely's game. He's a high level connector at best for me. I see a scenario where he bust out completely. But I'm not a fan. Not a fan of Liam McNeely. Not a fan of his lack of ball handling ability, his lack of ability to play against press defense, his ability to get to the rim. I don't like any of it. Don't like it. His finishing at the rim, don't like it.
I think the rim finishing at the rim is the most concerning to me.
Dirty
Like that.
Dancer says a spacer who doesn't space.
Yeah, his shooting's fallen off the map. And like that was someone like pre-injury, he was shooting nearly 40% from three on high volume.
Right.
That wasn't the case, not even close
Right.
to close the season.
And
But I think the rim stuff, like I wonder if again this is all team dependent. I wonder if you put him in a context to where like he has a legitimate point guard, like how much that helps him. Because I think that will help.
no, he doesn't finish well at the rim at all, regardless of who facilitates the ball to him.
Well, I'm
Any,
saying more so like him not having to handle as much as he had this year.
I guess. I guess.
The rim stuff's concerning no matter what. I agree.
Right. I agree with you. I get what you're saying. I don't think it helps much. I just don't think he's a good prospect. I think it's overblown. To be honest with you, how high people have had him all season. I've been low on him all season, and he just has cemented my expectations with his play.
Yeah, I haven't been particularly high on him either. But
Rasheer Fleming, he has stock down. Didn't play really in the tournament, but I guess he's going off the NIT. But I don't put a lot of stock in the NIT. I know I should, but prospects check out, man. They do. Once they realize they didn't make the big show.
yeah, but you're also facing worse teams.
I agree. No, you make a compelling point. But here's the thing about Fleming. I think people overstate what Fleming is going to be at the next level. He's strictly a 3 and D type of guy.
Mhm.
And the defense part On ball will be fine, but off ball, he's a mess. He jumps at everything. He jumps like KZ Akpala at things that aren't even there. Um, I have concerns about Fleming, like legitimate basketball IQ concerns. And he doesn't do anything off the bounce for you either.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah. But
stocked
hey,
down on
man,
Fleming also.
you're totally out on Fleming?
No, I said I'm stocked down on him. I'm not totally out.
Oh, okay. Um, yeah, I don't think he's gonna be a creator or anything like that. He can't handle like that.
No, not at all. Not at all. Where would you say is a good spot, a good range to take for sure Fleming?
Ooh, I would probably say like just in a vacuum, like 17 to 25, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, 17 to 25 is good. It's a good range. I've seen people have him as high as 13, and I'm like, no way. No freaking way.
Probably not. It would have to be like if I have a good team and if I'm 13 or 14. If I need a wing.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't do it. I couldn't pull a trigger that.
I don't think I would either. It depends on who else is available too. So
Yeah. Rasheer Fleming or KeyShawn Hall?
Fleming.
By a lot?
By a reasonable margin, sure.
It's actually not that much for me. Because I feel like KeyShawn Hall can do what Fleming does. He doesn't shoot it as well from deep, but I think he has a much better handle, facilitates better, rebounds just as well.
I
Not
think
that it's not that far from me.
him being as efficient as he was, like again, there's 3-and-D wings with his frame come at a premium.
I get it. KeyShawn Hall 6'7", 220 though. It's not that much different. This is my point.
6'9" with a 7'5" wingspan and
Yeah, his
nearly 250.
wingspan's crazy. His
Like that's
basketball
where
IQ is my concern, but
that's fine. Yeah.
I have Fleming ranked above him, but it's not by much. It's not a ton. I'm telling you, I'm really high on KeyShawn Hall, but I don't want to talk Drake Powell. He is who he is. Kalkbrenner, no thank you. Carabin, talk Carabin because he's an interesting prospect.
He's another one where it was like he and McNeely were the two guys. I mean, like Solo Ball was there, but like they had to handle a lot more than you would have liked for both of them to handle.
Right.
And I think the efficiency at the rim, just the efficiency in general,
Yeah.
wasn't. I don't know what Caravan's numbers were exactly, but I know his at the rim stuff was much worse. And I think that'll improve when he doesn't have to do as much. But like I think he's a smart player. I think defensively I have questions just about like the foot speed and him athletically.
For sure.
But I think he's very smart with like how he plays defense and like the angles and like he's got good positional size to him. So that
Yeah.
I'm not worried about. But again, like just him athletically, I think he'll be a fine shooter at the next level. Like I don't have much concerns about that. Like I think for him, he might be more of a specialist, and just like a 3-point specialist than like really anything else. Like he had
I
to do a
think
lot
he's
in
one of those
college.
bench guys that comes in the game. He's so good moving off the ball. He's really smart. He hustles. He fights for boards. And then the 3-point shooting will be his main thing. But I'm really intrigued at him in the second round. If you can get him in the second round, you'll get a contributor at some point. He's a solid player. I like him. Miles Bird. You want to talk about him? I don't really want to talk about him.
He was another player who I put on my list in the stock down, even though his stock has been trending down. So I kind of
I
broke my
agree.
own rule with that. But
Way to break your own rules, Matt Hanifan. Ian Jackson, do you think he's stocked down? I don't get that.
A little bit. A little bit. Like, I was expecting more, I think, from him
Yeah,
in conference play than what I saw
right.
when I did watch him.
I think they took the ball out of his hands, like in terms of like usage, and let RJ Davis cook, kind of thing. They leaned on the older guys, so I think it was more of a coaching decision than it was more Ian Jackson decision. But I get it. I don't think he was going to go super high in the first round to begin with, but he's a nice piece. He's a nice piece.
He might
I
be
like-
someone who takes the route of, like,
Maybe I
go
should
back
go
for another
back.
year. Going back for another year. Where
I
he's more
like
featured in a role where it's not like RJ Davis and Elliot Cadeau, and
right,
no disrespect to those guys, but, like, it's the same thing with Phylon. Phylon might be another one where it's just like, Mark Sears played a lot and had the ball a lot when I played
right.
behind him. Well, now I'm gonna be in a more featured role in this very high up tempo offense.
It's why Pettiford won't come out this year probably.
Yeah.
Because I love Todd Pettiford. I think he's a terrific scorer. But yeah, man, that's it for today. Let the people know where they can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
You could find me at NPH_824_ on Twitter. You can find me hotonhoops.com if you like Miami Heat stuff, and editasportsmedia.com, mountainwestconnection.com, as well as playback.tv/5RSN, where we watch the Miami Heat, cry about the Miami Heat, mostly cry about the Miami
Mostly
Heat.
cry.
I was gonna say we laugh at them, not with them, but at them sometimes. Um, and then you can find me at playback.tv/hoops profile, which is what we're on right now.
Right now, we actually are going to try to watch some NCAA tournament games. Depending on my health. Hopefully, we can get some of those in there. So definitely subscribe. I'm Digital Adele. Find me under that moniker on all social media platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, and definitely follow us at playback.tv/5RSN and playback.tv/hoops profile, like you said, where we're at right now. And subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Appreciate you. Talk to you later. See you next time.